Hey guys, Galaxy Studios here, coming at you with a Bloons Tower Defense 6 video. Now, I'm sure almost none of you were expecting this to be the follow-up to what's basically a review of a bunch of anime and manga with Squid Game thrown in. But the thing is, this channel isn't going to be focused on just one type of content. I'm going to be posting a lot of different kinds of videos here, including gaming videos. Plus, I feel like after 2 years, this challenge really deserves some footage on YouTube, so I'm putting it there. I'm going to be beating Dark Castle Chimps with all 3 Tier 5 tack shooters. Now, this challenge was really hard when I did it 2 years ago. For one, Dark Castle is a very hard map. It's an expert map, and although it is the easiest expert map in the game in my opinion, it's still the second shortest map. You really have to be on your A game when playing this, or you're gonna lose. And second, buying all 3 Tier 5 tack shooters doesn't leave you with much room to buy much else. Plus, you need to get the Alchemists and the Monkey Intelligence Bureau and all of that stuff, so that leaves you with even less to buy support and stuff like that. You need to be really efficient with early game. Luckily, I played Dark Castle many times, so I know how to do its early game. I think the biggest change between when I did it 2 years ago and now is coming up next. But a smaller change is that I've changed the placements of a lot of the starting towers. The first Dart Monkey used to be where the second Dart Monkey is, but that made rounds 6 and 7 inconsistent. So I changed them. As well, instead of buying Pat on round 13, I'm going to buy Airburst Darts on round 14. Round 15 is almost impossible if you buy Pat on round 13. And honestly, it doesn't really matter if you buy Pat in round 13, round 15, round 17, or round 19, which is when I buy him. He's still going to get the levels he needs when he needs to get them. But the thing is, you still need to place Pat down pretty early so he gets Rallying Roar for round 35, although you can place him on round 33 and he'll get that. But I mean, I think I should talk about why I'm choosing Pat Fusty since I'm about to get him. Because there are a lot of better heroes in the game. Sai and Etienne are great all-rounders. Ezili is really, really great at taking down bads and round 98 and stuff like that. Captain Churchill is a really good solo hero. And Admiral Brickle pairs very well with subs, and subs are basically the best tower in the game, probably. So why did I choose Pat? Well, for one, because I'm using Tack Shooter, and Pat Fusty pairs really well with basically every Tack Shooter, considering Tack Shooter is basically the epitome of low damage but high fire rate, which pairs very well with damage buffs like Pat Fusty's Rallying Roar. As well, Pat Fusty can knock back and stun Moabs once he gets to a high enough level, which is invaluable in the early and late game. And third, I love using Pat Fusty. He's my favorite hero in the game. Now, I'm going to get an Alchemist for round 28 because Pat Fusty is not enough to pop all the leads. I've learned that the hard way multiple times. So I'm going to delay getting my triple guns. But now that I've gotten the triple guns, I'm basically set until round 35. I'm going to upgrade it to Tack Sprayer and then get some more upgrades. Now, one thing I said is that the monkey sub was going to carry me until round 35. I said that because on round 35, there are rainbow balloons, which the sub is not able to deal with on its own. So, I've devised a plan, because round 36 is also something the sub can't beat on its own. Now, previously, once I got the triple guns, I would immediately save up for overdrive. But eventually, I figured out that that was incredibly risky and would lead to me not doing very well on round 36 and dying a lot. So, what I'm going to be doing right now is, well, you're going to see. I'm going to use Rallying Roar on round 35, and then you'll notice that I haven't bought Berserker Brew yet, and that's because I'm going to time it so that it kicks in exactly when it's needed. This is something I'm pretty proud of. And one of my more thoughtful changes to the early game. So now I'm going to buy enhanced eyesight on that other dart monkey because I figured out that the camo defense I have is just barely unable to take out the camo whites on round 37. Like, a blue balloon squeaks by, and it's always really annoying. So yeah, I finally buy overdrive, and we're pretty much set for a pretty long time. Just gonna buy some support and then start the save up for Tack Zone. The first support I'm gonna buy is the villages, but that's not gonna come until later. In the meantime, let's just see this Moab get eliminated by the overdrive. I'll take it from here. Rallying Roar. Now, I turn off auto start because on round 42, I'm gonna buy my villages. The only 2 villages I'm gonna buy for the run, and this is basically the only point in the run where precision really matters, besides the start with the dart and sub. Gotta put them so that they'll buff everything in their radius, but there'll still be room to place a lot of towers. I am just barely able to afford the radar scanner, and now I'm going to buy Monkey Business and Monkey Commerce on this one as well. That'll make the top path upgrades on the other village cheaper. I'm going to be buying up to primary training now, and the discounts are definitely going to pay themselves off. They cost exactly $2,000, and that's definitely made up with the money saved on a bunch of upgrades. Yeah. One thing that I said previously is that I did this for the first time 2 years ago. And one thing I didn't tell you is that that's the first time anyone has ever done that challenge. And in fact, Axis of Tack on Dark Castle is the first Axis challenge ever done on an expert map. This was done 2 years ago in April 2020. If you go to the Extra Challenges server, which will be linked in the description, and take a look at the first pinned comment, just scroll down a little bit from there and you'll find the moment where I posted it. Buying a Blade Maelstrom right now. And well, we're about to enter one of the toughest phases of the entire run. The 50s. This is going to be extremely difficult, which is why I'm buying the Blade Maelstrom and popping it early to celebrate. Now, I said that the 50s are one of the hardest stretches in the entire game, and that's mainly because of the Moabs. Moabs come out on every lane, and although the Overdrive did a great job against the Moabs from the top path, as you're going to see again shortly, against the ones that come out from the middle path, it doesn't do that great. And it's really far away from the track, so like 5 of its 16 tacks hit the stuff coming out of the bottom path. We do have Pat and the Maelstrom to make up for that. But that's only 2 abilities. I'm going to have to balance them effectively, and unfortunately I'm not going to get through this without at least 1 death. 52 is the first really hard round. I'm going to have to pop the Maelstrom here. But the thing is, the Maelstrom is easily able to clean this round up. 53 normally isn't too difficult, especially when I actually try to complete it as efficiently as possible and use subs instead of tacks. But here, I do need to pop the Maelstrom, and even then I barely survive. 54 is a pretty notoriously hard round that I fully expected to die on, but I was able to use the Rallying Roar. Unfortunately, this meant I died on round 55. Round 55, luckily the Alchemist is always buffing the right towers when the ceramics come out, and for the final wave I just pop the Maelstrom and it disintegrates. Also luckily the Moab for this round is on the top path, as is the Moab for round 56, which I can beat without any abilities. Round 57, on the other hand, is probably the hardest round of the entire playthrough. I'm dead serious. I'm gonna have to use an ability to beat these things. Even a Maelstrom isn't enough. I'm gonna have to use Rallying Roar. I'm just barely able to beat it. That's not guaranteed, even if you time it perfectly. And this Maelstrom cleaning up everything isn't guaranteed either. Now, as for round 58, it can be pretty tricky. One Moab comes out of the bottom path, which is always a pain to deal with. But luckily, I have two abilities. I'm going to be using one of them for the Moab that's coming right up, Maelstrom. Actually, never mind, I'm using the Rallying Roar. I'm using the Maelstrom for the other one. And once that's done, I can afford the Tack Zone, my absolute favorite tower in the entire game. And it's going to carry me until like round 75. Now, one of the reasons I love the Tack Zone is because it's just awesome. I love its design. I love how much it can be buffed by damage buffs, and I love how well it pairs with Pat, my favorite hero. Also, I buy primary mentoring. That just increases the range a bit. That's always helpful, and allows me to get the Mortax upgrade on my Ring of Fire for free. I'm sure the BTD6 Index is going to be very excited about the fact that I'm using the Ring of Fire. Now, it's time for round 63, one of the most infamous rounds in the entire game. Wave 1, I Maelstrom it. Now, the Tack Zone is really, really good, but even it can't beat round 63 alone, especially after the Pierce nerf. So, I'm going to use Rallying Roar on Wave 2 and Maelstrom the other waves. Now it is time for round 64, and it's just going to get disintegrated. Don't even need to use the Maelstrom for this one. Now, before Infernal Ring, I'm going to get one more support tower. And that support tower is the Overclock, which I love using Overclock with Tack Zone. It just turns the Tack Zone into a glorious zone of destruction, as is implied in the name of the upgrade. But it's going to take a while to afford it, and even longer to afford the Infernal Ring. Now, I said that this is the first Axis that had ever been done on an expert map. However, I was not the first person to do an Axis on an advanced map. That honor goes to RML Gaming, who did Axis of Ninja on Pat's Pond before the Axis of Havoc challenge was even in the game. Considering how difficult this challenge is, even in the current update, it feels really weird for me to say that this was the first intentional Axis challenge ever done, probably. There's probably someone who did it, but RML Gaming was the first to post it to YouTube for sure. Then the challenge was released, and I think it's really cool how Axis of Havoc has now been done on every map in the game. It's been done on Ravine, it's been done on Bloody Puddles, it's been done on Sanctuary. The last map to fall was actually #ouch. Because Elite Sniper doesn't do that well with multi-lane maps. Now, although I was the first to complete this challenge in Dark Castle, I wasn't the first to attempt it. In the early days of the challenge on the Extra Challenges server, I was pushing the limits and beating the challenge on more and more difficult advanced maps, and another user, Flambe13, was trying to do it in Dark Castle, but ended up getting stuck on round 90. Now, with his permission, I took over the challenge, and was able to beat it within a couple of days, after a lot of grinding and a lot of strategy changes, which you can learn about the history of on the Extra Challenges server by jumping to the first pinned comment. Again, link to the server will be in the description. Now, we're getting to a pretty important stage of the game. Use Rallying Roar there because I have died there before. Round 75 is when the game takes a sharp increase in difficulty that doesn't slow down until you're at like round 90. Actually, make that round 86, because round 86 is considerably easier than all the rounds that came before it. And yeah, I now have Overclock, and just in time, because I don't think I could have beaten round 75 without it. It is that difficult. And also, this is where I now begin the save up to Infernal Ring, which is going to absolutely carry the late game, along with Tack Zone and Super Maelstrom, both being a great source of firepower. I really love using Tack Shooter. It's my favorite tower to use. Blade Maelstrom to clear out round 76. Now we got some really, really long rounds ahead of us. On top of that, these rounds are also really difficult. I don't want to restart any of them, so I'm going to be using the Rallying Roar on round 77 because I know I can save the Blade Maelstrom for round 78. Round 78, it's tripped me up before, but it's incredibly easy to pass if you have Blade Maelstrom, and it'll only be kind of difficult if you don't. That said, I think it's about time to talk about what is fast approaching, the hardest part of the entire run, the 80s and the save up to Inferno Ring. A bunch of BFBs just get thrown at you over and over again, and you don't afford Inferno Ring until like round 87. Tack Zone is barely enough. And well, once we're done round 79 and 80, that's when it's going to start. The thing is, along with the rounds getting tougher, our defense is getting tougher as well. And I'm not just talking about the upgrades that we're buying. I'm talking about Pat Fusty, because he just hit level 13 and is about to hit level 14. Yep, he just hit level 14, enabling access to a much more powerful Rallying Roar that is honestly my favorite ability in the entire game. It's just so satisfying to see Tack Zone wreck everything. Unfortunately, round 80 gives us our initiation to the 80s by killing us. Metaphorically, of course. Isn't everything a metaphor? And I used Big Squeeze as well. I'm going to be using Blade Maelstrom this time just to be safe. Honestly, I don't think I needed it. It was probably just a timing issue with the Alchemist's throws. Now, it's time for the 80s. Round 81 has all these BFBs. They can be cleared out with Rallying Roar pretty easily. Yeah, you see how quickly that stuff got disintegrated? It is just so satisfying to watch. Next up is round 82. It's more of the same, except this time there are fortified BFBs mixed in there, which again can be annihilated with Rallying Roar. Had to pop Blade Maelstrom there a bit because it was pretty scary. Round 83 is pretty easy. I'm going to be using Overclock for this, but I won't need to use Rallying Roar and probably won't need to use Maelstrom. I don't remember. I recorded this footage a pretty long time ago. Yeah. No Maelstrom. Round 84, on the other hand, that might require Maelstrom. That said, it's just a bunch of Moabs and BFBs. I'm not too worried about it. Even with the Super Ceramics, Tack Zone is doing a really good job at shredding them, and they're just giving us a ton of money. We are getting closer and closer to being able to afford the Inferno Ring, which is going to basically signal the game over. Although Tack Zone is my favorite tower and the one that gets the most pops in this run, Inferno Ring is definitely the most powerful tower that is on the field. Now it's time for round 85. ZOMGs are really tricky to deal with. I was lucky here, because these ZOMGs, they are on the top two lanes. But on round 87, we're going to have to deal with some ZOMGs on the bottom lane. And it's not going to be easy. That's not even talking about round 86. I was barely able to get the overclock in time. I kind of messed things up by popping the overclock too late on round 85. And that means I'm not going to get it back entirely in time for round 87. Fortunately, Pat Snall does help. I'm going to use all my abilities at once. And I'm still going to die when I could have afforded Inferno Ring. That is rough, buddy. But on the second time, I am going to get it. Slow the game down just so I can use all the abilities together as quickly as possible. Rallying Roar and Blade Maelstrom, and yep, there's the Inferno Ring. Time for the endgame to begin. The hardest part of the entire run is done. Now, it's just time to watch the Inferno Ring dominate. Well, one thing I do need to do is get a Monkey Intelligence Bureau, but if I remember correctly, I'm not going to get it for round 90. Yeah. I'm cutting things so close that I don't afford the Monkey Intelligence Bureau. Instead of overclocking the tech zone, I am now overclocking the Infernal Ring. But don't worry, I'm going to overclock the tech zone eventually. And it's going to be amazing. Yeah, Monkey Intelligence Bureau, the tech zone can now hit DDTs. With only 10 rounds to go, I think I'm going to take this time to say that this is nowhere near the most impressive Axis challenge that people have done. It's not even close to the most impressive Axis of Tack. People have done it on Workshop. I mean, I was the first to do it on Workshop shortly after I did Dark Castle, but that was with the permanent slowdown on the reverse motor bug that was patched 20 updates ago. Some guy managed to do it recently legitimately, and I congratulated him and he said thank you. Someone managed to do it on Infernal, but almost every Axis has been done on Infernal at this point. It's kind of insane considering Infernal is an expert map, the second easiest in my opinion. Someone did it on Muddy Puddles. That's impressive, considering Muddy Puddles was once considered the hardest map in the game. And most notably, it's been done on Ravine, the actual hardest map in the game. Yeah. One player did it for a challenge and absolutely exceeded expectations. That's not even considering all of the other achievements that have been done in all of the other Axis challenges. I mean, I mentioned Axis of Havoc being completed on every single map in the game. #ouch was a massive barrier that no one was able to break for the longest time, but someone managed to do it. I think I should pause to mention that on round 95, the hardest round in the late game for this challenge, I'm going to be overclocking Pat Fusty. I finally get a chance to do it. But yeah. #ouch was a massive barrier, but the guy who ended up beating it ended up using Permacharge as the main DPS. That's kind of insane, and considering I love Permacharge, it was amazing to see. And also, Axis of Ice has now been done on every map in the game. In a previous update, someone managed to get all 3 Tier 5 Alchemists on Logs. And although Logs is the easiest map in the game, I think it's important to understand that that left him with $3,000, less than $3,000 to spare. I love the Axis challenge. It's probably the challenge I put the most time into in Bloons TD6. I've done a lot of good things with it, and although I'm nowhere near the best in the world, I still have a lot of fun getting one done eventually. I recently did Fake Axis of Dartling on Infernal, which was really fun. Getting a Ray of Doom in Chimps mode is always really fun. And of course, I redo this challenge in a new update every now and again, just for the funsies. And with that, I'm just gonna play the last 2 rounds. Enjoy this footage of Taxone absolutely destroying the bad. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I do appreciate your feedback. That is a quote from someone else, not me. Bye-bye.